Item 4 on our list was virtual reality. I want to touch base with you guys regarding virtual reality. Virtual reality is something that I'm a lot more impressed with than I thought I would be, and I have continued to play a little in my spare time, of which I've not had a lot. So, for example, I've managed to get Skyrim to the point where I got to the Greybeards and learnt the Whirlwind Sprint Shout. I have progressed a tiny bit in the main quest. And, you know, I probably should do a new video where I discuss what I found in VR and how I am actually finding it. So, for example, the real problem I have from a nausea perspective is only with verticality now. Vertical movement bothers me. Forward and backwards, sideways movement doesn't really bother me. I can play for fairly extended periods, half an hour to an hour. Up and down, I can feel it within 15 to 20 minutes. So the climb to the throat of the world was interesting. Looked very good, looked very steep, but I did feel a little nauseous. So, but more importantly, I don't think it's a very viewable experience. I really don't. However, maybe I might consider streaming VR. I don't know how that's going to work though, because of course I can't see the chat. So again, I'm really unsure how VR is going to be a thing on my channel until VR games have come to the point where they actually have a tracking camera that is completely stable. You can play Subnautica in VR. You probably can, but again, I'm not 100% sure how that will translate to a viewable experience. So yeah, there's wireless options for both Oculus and Vive now, and there are even a lot more technologies coming out, like haptic bodysuits and things like that. They look really interesting, and they're going to be a lot of fun for people to play VR. And I think what I'm going to do is continue on with my VR logging series. So I should make another video soon about Skyrim in VR and just discuss it. But as for how and when it will appear on the channel, I can't really see it. It's not viewable, in my opinion. I would like to do a Fallout 4 playthrough in VR. I would. But I've wondered whether it would be better to do the Brotherhood playthrough I'd planned on doing on the PlayStation, and then maybe at a later date doing the Minutemen some years down the line, not VR. But then it suddenly occurred to me that the Minutemen playthrough, I could actually have sim settlements, and I wondered how that would be in VR. So I have considered playing Fallout 4 in VR, but again, I don't know how viewable it would be. VR on stream is not a special thing, most something that cut off the chat audience. Right, I mean, it's you can't really follow the chat. VR is good in short bursts to watch. Right, but the games I'm sort of thinking of playing in VR are just not short burst games, so I just don't know. How is settlement building in Fallout 4 VR? I don't possess Fallout 4 VR, so I can't tell you, I'm afraid. Did see another streamer looking at chat by twisting her head in a strange angle. Yeah, I mean, there are ways to probably get the chat to appear in the VR, but it's not a simple matter of just glancing over at the chat and then carrying on. It's going to require you stop. Do you know what really did interest me? If someone could make this as a mod, it would be phenomenal. I tried to figure out if you could get live web pages like the Twitch chat as Flash plugins and put them into the Pip-Boy. So you can actually have it in the Pip-Boy, because I know there are some Flash games in the Pip-Boy. So I was thinking, could you actually have a web page, the Twitch chat live as a Flash plugin, and then open up your Pip-Boy and just look, you could see the chat. So when you want to look at the chat, you just look at your Pip-Boy. That would be awesome. That would be phenomenal. but there are probably security issues. There are probably issues that would prevent you from doing that. So, A, I'm not even technically sure it's possible, and B, it would really only be for people who wanted to stream VR and chat to people who are watching their Twitch channel, and I can't honestly think that's going to be a large number of people so as to drive up demand. But it would be cool nonetheless. PS4 VR while streaming is terrible. Yeah, I wasn't a big lover of PlayStation 4 VR, to be honest. So, games especially designed for VR do not translate very well on a stream because they're focused on the player experience, not on the game story, engaging experience. I think a lot of it's less about the story and the engaging experience and more... You're right, it does focus on the player's experience, but the player's experience is often, oh my god, I could pick this rock up. Oh my god, I could pick this knife up. Once you get past that, the player would start to focus on the fights, would start to focus on, you know, the story. I mean, I did play Skyrim and I was really just getting into it, and it was just playing it very naturally, and I was having fights, and it was good fun, and it was a little slow moving because I couldn't increase the movement rate. I am getting more accustomed to it, but I still walk at a relatively sedate rate. I walk around Skyrim at a rate that's actually like a normal walk, which by gaming standards is bloody slow. But it's just when you watch the footage afterwards, it's horrible. It's just too shaky. I still think VR needs a step, something, a jump, whereby what's mirrored on the screen, the thing that you record or stream, is a third camera angle that is not fixed to the head of the person playing. It's fixed to a point like that would be inside that person's head, but it's a little, I'd say, delayed. So if the person turns their head or bobs their head, it doesn't bob and turn with them. In fact, what I would actually say is it should have a kind of a threshold that if the person's bobbing up and down, it stays completely and utterly stationary. And it only drops down once they go below a certain threshold, and then it sort of catches them. For turning, I would almost have it do the same. So if they were glancing around little bits, I'd have it not do anything. And then if they did turn a big amount, have it move smoothly. I think they're going to need something like that. I could even imagine VR games being more viewable if the camera was actually behind. Imagine I'm playing Skyrim as Leonard. Just picture it as Leonard for now. And I'm seeing everything first person from Leonard's perspective, but you are looking at it as though I were playing third person. So you've got a slightly wider field of view than me, but I'm turning my head constantly and the camera's adjusting a little slower. So it's nice, it's viewable, it's watchable, but you know, you get a little wider vision. If I do a quick turn, it's going to be a little delayed, but at least it'll be steady. It'll be more like a cameraman with a proper professional camera with one of those cranes zooming around to see what you're looking at. So, you know, yeah, third-person spectator cam. That could be an option. To do it from the perspective of the player is possible, but it would make it very... I think it would make it a little difficult. There would be a delay, and thus, you know, the player would turn a quick 180 and say, "Oh my God, look at that!" and the screen would be turning a little slower. There's possibly ways of doing it. Maybe have the turning be very, very fast, but at the same time, it smooths out the bumpiness, especially the verticality. The verticality is a big issue, and also the tilt. One of the things you find in VR, and you never really think about this when you're not in VR, is you can tilt your head in VR. So you can tilt your head in VR and look around a corner. You can tilt your head in VR and look at things at funny angles. If you have a chase cam that just doesn't do that, then it would have a far steadier image, So I think VR needs that leap before it's a watchable experience. But it's going to require tons and tons of testing, and it's going to require the motivation to make that sort of thing. That's going to require VR games manufacturers to think about the viewing experience for streamers and YouTubers. And usually that's the last thing they think about. It may not be that way for much longer because, of course, they want VR to go mainstream. It is starting to go a bit more mainstream. And, you know, watching a YouTuber or a streamer play VR and get really into it, but it also being a watchable experience for you, could make people think, oh, I want to be there. I want to look across that mountain, that lake in Skyrim and feel like I'm there. Rather than, I want to vomit now. You know, so to sell the games, to sell VR, that could be something they should start thinking about. But we're a ways off. We're a ways off, I think. Although, you know what? 2 years ago, people were saying VR was a gimmick. It wasn't going to take off. Now it's, I wouldn't say it was mainstream, but it's as mainstream as a joystick HOTAS solution for flight sims. It's specialist equipment, but it's becoming far more normal. And the VR games are getting better. I mean, Bethesda, I have to commend Bethesda on their VR conversion for Skyrim and Fallout 4. Well, I haven't actually tested the PC version of Fallout 4 on the Oculus. I did test it on the Vive, though, and I was pretty impressed. But Skyrim, I've been very impressed with. You can tell it's a game that's been ported to VR. You can tell that. There are plenty of things that I think when they're making their next games, they may consider just dragging objects and things like that. They may consider the VR interface when they're designing, probably not Starfield, but Elder Scrolls 6, when they're writing the code, they may consider the VR element of it and design the game interface in a way that works well with controllers, mouse and keyboard, and with VR, or at least is easier to convert between the three. But overall, they took a mainstream game and they actually made it not just a gimmick, not just a tourist thing, which was what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a tourist thing. They made it a playable game. So, yeah. All right, good night, Irresponse. Yeah, you have to watch the rest of the VOD. Sorry. So, that's what I got to say on VR. I'm impressed with VR. I like VR. I'm going to stay in touch with VR, and I will keep doing VR logs. I don't know whether there'll be any Let's Plays or streams in it. So we will just have to see.